Hello, everyone. Over the past month, I've uploaded a lot of videos over many different topics, from philosophical arguments about theism, naturalism, evolution, to political videos about Ukraine, and of course, my videos about the nature of conspiracy theories. What's interesting to me, at least, I don't know about you, is that there's actually a thread that connects all of these videos. And since I have no desire to obfuscate anything, nor do I have any hidden agendas about my beliefs, I figured it might be worthwhile to address that thread a bit now. So the short answer is the thread is my worldview. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe, and don't forget to press that bell icon, or YouTube won't know to ignore you. And what kind of miserable existence would that be? Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day. That aside, the reason I bring this up is because, as my video about the worst social media platform on earth just attested to, recently I've been looking at Twitter. I know it's a mistake, but we're all human. See, I was sort of hopeful that Elon Musk would actually buy it and perhaps clean up some of the toxicity, but I think that's pretty much a lost cause at this point. Anyway, one thing about Twitter is that there are a handful of people there that I follow who I personally know. And when I was on Facebook, which I stopped frequenting that roughly around the same time that J6 happened, most of my friends that I had on Facebook were friends that I knew in real life, or at least people that I knew in real life, right? So because of all of this, not to forget, I can also include my own self-examination in the point I'm trying to make here. It all boils down to a simple observation of people online, including myself, and who I know in person, including, again, myself. And in no way am I going to be claiming that this observation I made is universal proof. I can speak English. This is just my singular anecdotal observation. That observation is that most people do not act anything online like they act in person. And while this is my anecdote, I've seen enough from other people who have made the same observation that it's probably an accurate assessment of people in general. I mean, the reality is that each of us is able to present certain aspects and highlight them, and also to de-emphasize other aspects of our personality when we're knowing that we're going to be viewed by public people. And sometimes it's for the better, like when you dress up for church. Other times it's for the worst, when, like, for example, you give a piece of your mind to that guy on Twitter who not only said something completely wrong, but didn't even spell it correctly. Now, the reason I'm bringing all of this up for the context is because it deals with the compartmentalization of behaviors and beliefs and thoughts. Basically, it's the concept that the same person behaves in one manner on Twitter or Facebook and in a completely different way in real life, without even really being cognizant that there's a difference for them. And I think that extends to far more than just social media versus real human interactions. I've had enough conversations with people, and again, I probed my own thoughts often enough that I feel fairly confident in stating that the vast majority of people on Earth, if not every single person on Earth, holds to contradictory views that they willfully ignore and don't even see because of that. I mean, there's trivial examples like every driver thinks the other drivers are the worst drivers on the road, and they're clearly not paying attention to anything whatsoever while they're driving. But of course, when you drift into the other lane, it was because you were only taking 1 second, one tiny second, to change the radio station. It's not because you're not paying attention. It was just a quick momentary thing, right? You're not one of those crazy, incompetent drivers. No, not you. But those simple types of examples aside, I think it extends deeper than that. So again, this is just my opinions right now. I'm not stating this as if I know all the truth or whatever, but I'm just throwing out. I think the majority of people hold to political views or cultural norms or, dare I say it, religious beliefs that are contradicted by other aspects of their life. Now, as I mentioned before, I strive to put truth above all else. So I've made the attempt at trying to be as consistent as I can with my worldview. But like I said earlier, I recognize that I am human, and all humans are fallible. All humans have blind spots. So I know that not only is it likely, it's basically guaranteed that I haven't found all the contradictions within my own view, right? But I do kind of like the example I once read, and I believe it was in reference to Jonathan Edwards. I do know that. I don't remember who said this now, though. By Jonathan Edwards, I also mean the Puritan pastor, not the politician from a couple of decades back who had that affair and cheated on his dying wife or whatever that was. I vaguely remember it. But Jonathan Edwards, the Puritan, whoever wrote this was talking about Edwards, how he would always do resolutions, and then he would feel frustration at not being able to accomplish everything that he resolved to do. And the person who was describing this basically quoted Edwards as saying that he felt like he was a complete failure because the more he tried to do good, the worse it appeared that he was doing to himself. But as the author of this particular piece pointed out, it's similar to a person who is trying to clean weeds out of his garden. And at the same time, he's got glasses that are dirty. And so he's weeding the garden, then he goes and cleans the glasses for a bit and weeds some more and cleans his glasses for a bit. And the problem with that is that despite all the all the weeds he's pulling out of the garden, every time he cleans his glasses, he sees more weeds that are in the garden. So he feels like he's actually failing because he's seeing more and more weeds each time. He doesn't see the fact that the number of weeds has actually decreased and his blind spots towards them have increased the blind spots have decreased, so his vision has increased. He sees more weeds, so the number that he perceives is going up when the objective reality is the number is going down because he is actually making progress, right? So hopefully that's not too complex, but all that to say, that's kind of what I would like to think is happening when I examine my own worldview. I figured I just take a minute here to connect a few of the dots between some of my recent videos. So, anybody who wants to try to correct my own blind spots, well, now you'll be able to better look at where these blind spots are, and perhaps you'll be able to see just how deep the blind spot is, or perchance maybe you'll discover one of your own blind spots in the process. I don't know. I view this as something that everybody can benefit from. So I guess let me start with the conspiracy theory video. Since of the recent videos, that's the one that's gotten the most views, although I think YouTube only had it going for a day before they're like, let's not trend this. Anyway, the reality is, I admit, I have a knee-jerk instant reaction to when I hear a conspiracy theory, I immediately say it's complete BS, right? Especially if it involves more than a handful of people maximum. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean that I don't believe in any conspiracy theory whatsoever or any alternative theories to what we're told is what happened. Just for a quick example, one theory that I think at least has the possibility of being correct surrounds the JFK assassination. Now, I don't remember where I've originally heard this theory from. I know it's in a book somewhere. I saw it on a video at one point, but it referenced the book. Basically, the theory is that when Lee Harvey Oswald opened fire on Kennedy, one of the Secret Service agents in the lead car stood up and he pulled out his AR. And I don't remember if it was an AR-10 or AR-15, but it was an AR platform. And he was getting ready to return fire. And as he lifted the weapon up, he inadvertently hit the trigger. And the bullet then hit Kennedy in the head. So the Secret Service then covered all that up, since it was so embarrassing to admit that while they were charged with protecting the president, they had actually killed him by accident. Now, this theory seems plausible to me more than any of the other alternative theories that are presented. By saying it seems more plausible, I'm not saying at all that it's proven, just to make that clear. But the things that are in its favor are the fact that it doesn't deny the basic events that occurred during that day. Oswald did open fire. He did try to kill Kennedy. He actually did hit Kennedy with the one shot through the neck, right? We also know that the Secret Service did have at least one AR on the scene, and witnesses on the ground said they could smell gunpowder. And that is extremely important because you wouldn't be smelling the gunpowder from a 6-story building, right? And also including the fact that the Secret Service took the body, they took control of the body, they took it out of the hospital, wouldn't allow the local police to investigate at all. The x-rays that they took when they made it back to Washington ended up just disappearing. And the witnesses who saw the autopsy they've stated that things just weren't correct, right? All of that adds up to the suspicion that the official narrative doesn't seem to be anything correct. But at the same time, this loosely fits along with the official narrative. And most importantly of all, in my opinion, it fits the character of government bureaucrat, right? If one of them accidentally did pull the trigger, they would sweep that evidence aside and fully let the blame fall completely on Oswald as much as they could and get rid of anything that would make them look bad. I mean, that's the nature of government bureaucrats, so it fits. This isn't out of the realm of possibility. So, as you can see, I don't completely rule out conspiracies per se, but again, I admit they are extremely low on my list of things that I believe. And just to give a little more background, part of that comes from the behavior of the militia types of people that I mentioned as being in my church around the time of the Oklahoma City bombing. And see, honestly, that's what turned me off not only to conspiracies, but also to all these Christians who get caught up in the end times hysteria, right? And honestly, as I'm thinking about it now, I actually see conspiracies and the end times hysteria as two sides of the same coin, right? And probably it's because I'm associating both of those types of people with the same individuals in that church who did both. So to clarify, there was an end time nut at my church, and he was constantly going on and on about the Clinton conspiracies that were out there too, in between talking about how everything was the end of the world and the end of the world's going to be any second now. And, that's like 30 years ago now. So look, if you take nothing else away from this video, note that if you babble on and on with complete nonsense, with no connection to reality at all, I'm not going to believe anything that you say. And I suspect that everything you say will become suspect to any type of reasonable person. But as a result of this character, I'd say two things minimal happen. So first, if there was a conspiracy claim made about anything, I immediately just reject it out of hand and then require actual evidence before I start to change my mind. That's what they did with the JFK thing that I just mentioned, is I rejected all the conspiracy theories. And then when somebody was like, well, what about this and this and this? And I was sitting there going like, okay, this actually fits in to where you don't have to deny everything that you know. It actually fits alongside with it. So that makes it at least a lot more possible. But secondly, as I said, I had 2 points. Secondly, when somebody tries to interpret the figurative language that's found in the book of Revelation as if it applies to modern day military equipment, I tune them out completely. I don't listen to a thing that they're saying after that point, because the Bible isn't your Picasso painting that you get to rearrange and however it fits and put the mouth over here and the eyes down there, whatever. That's not how you use the Bible if you actually hold to it as being a true book. And see, this is partly why when I first read a different book, a relatively short book, if I recall correctly, it was called The Last Days According to Jesus by R.C. Sproul. And he argued that virtually all of the end times passages that are found in the Bible, in multiple places, but specifically in Revelation, have historically already happened. There is no future gloom and doom that the Bible's actually predicting, because all of those things that's talking about happened within the generation that Jesus was talking to when he made his predictions. and the generation that John was writing to in the book of Revelation. All of that happened within that generation. So this view is called preterism, or a lot of people would be partial preterists if they believe some of that happened back then, but there might still be future fulfillment of other things. So when I read this book, I immediately said, this actually sounds reasonable. So just from that alone, I don't know for sure if it's correct or not. But what I will say is it made a lot more sense to me reading this book, saying that this is linked historically to things that's already happened, than thinking that these are hidden references to F-16s or Apache helicopters that are just coded in Revelation. And the fact that while I believe the Bible is true, I don't agree with people who claim that the end times are going to be doom and gloom. That certainly changes my outlook on current events. Yeah, it also helps that I'm a Calvinist and I believe in predestination. Not to mention that even if I wasn't a Christian at all, I would still, just based on what I know of physics, would be a determinist, and I would not hold to the concept of free will at all. So all of that definitely helps to keep my mindset from the doom and gloom that a lot of these people are falling prey to. So I'd say, unlike many people, even other Calvinists who, they at least say that they hold to the view that God's in charge of everything, it actually influences me. It makes me where I don't worry about the future. Jesus himself said that worrying accomplishes nothing, right? Going from memory here, which I probably should have looked this up before, but I believe that as close as I can quote the passage was, what does worrying do? Can it add a single cubit to your height or something like that? So, like I said, I should have done this. I should have done research earlier on this one. I've got my bullet points, but I should have actually looked this one up. But as a wise guy once said, and you can take that way, we're doing it live, okay? Anyway, again, so I just want to stress that all of this that I'm talking about does condense into a singular point. Now I say consistency. It isn't just for oatmeal. It's actually important for your worldview to be consistent, right? Because if I can just address the Christians specifically who might be watching this for just 1 minute, what does your fear about the end of the world tell all the people who do not believe in Christianity about your God? The God you say you worship, if he can't even keep you secure in the midst of a foreign governmental power that could possibly nuke you, what good does it do to worship that God? Can that God actually save you? I would say clearly not if you're still scared of some foreign human power on earth. And if you want to say, oh no, it's not the human powers, it's the spiritual power before that, who do you think has won? Do you really think that Satan and his minions are in charge of anything at this point? Do you really think that God can't, with just one brush of his hand, just remove them completely? So the question that you really need to talk about with yourself is, what are you demonstrating to the world when you are afraid of the end times, right? And so all of that, again, as I said, I strive to be consistent. My views are consistent not just within my theological framework, it's also consistent within, as I said, physics. I would be a determinist whether the Bible said it, which it clearly does in my view, or if I just read physics. Both of them are showing me the same exact end result. Even throwing quantum mechanics in there, I still would hold to the view, I guess it's popularly called as super determinism, which I think is a redundancy. It's determinism is determinism, but whatever. I guess really that that's all that I'm really trying to say at this point. I don't really have a close to this, so I'll just say what I always end my videos with, and fade out the video. So I hope you all have a wonderful day.